Hey everyone, welcome to the KE Report, a company update from Heliostar Metals, chatting with the president and CEO Charles Funk. We're going to be focusing on the Ana Paula Project because the company just released the first drill holes from the 15,000 meter program focused on resource conversion at Ana Paula at the high grade area of that asset. Heliostar is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol HSTR, on the OTCQX under the symbol HSTXF, and the Frankfurt Exchange RGG1. Charles, let's start off with a quote, kind of big picture look at the company right now that was in that most recent news release from August 27th. You simply say, in 2025, Heliostar will drill more meters than we have drilled in our entire company's history. We intend to drill between 40 to 50,000 meters. From the close of the mine acquisitions late last year to the end of 2025, this drilling is being funded by cash flows from your operating mines, and you're starting off with some Ana Paula results. Look, this company has changed so much in the last year, and now you're going hard with the drill bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool statement on a number of fronts, isn't it? Yeah, and these are the biggest programs that we've ever done at each of the assets, and in some of the assets for long periods of time before we acquired them. 15,000 meters at Ana Paula, 10 to 15,000 meters at San Augustine, 15 to 20,000 meters at La Colorada, and all funded from the cash flows of our mines. Like when you read through that, it means our assets are profitable and we're using them to both grow resources and to expand production.
All right, let's talk about these initial holes, these first few holes from Ana Paula. Headline number being just over 30 meters, grading 6.29 grams per ton gold. A lot of other results within this news release of well over 100 gram meter holes, kind of the baseline that a lot of people look at. But look, this is focused on resource conversion. So remind everybody the high grade resource, where it stands now, and how much of it you're trying to convert with this drill program.
Yeah, and so you've been on us on the journey with us over the last few years since we bought and changed Ana Paula. We focused on the high grade core, which I think most people know. We turned the drills around 90 degrees because of the orientation of the high grade core, and that's shown a lot more continuity that's there, and that's added a lot of high grade ounces. It's a clear feature of the high grade panel, the amount of consistent high grade wide intercepts that we get. And we'd had a widely drilled resource for an open pit, and we were tightening it up for an underground. And so we did a big program in 2023 that focused on the core zone, and that gave us just over 700,000 M&I ounces and another 450 inferred. The only reason they're inferred is we didn't have enough money, frankly, to go and drill those off. Now we do. And so we've got the 15,000 meter program underway that's focused on, above, below, to the east, to the west of the high grade panel to try and A, grow the resource in that area, and B, drill it tight enough spacing so that we can have a high confidence so that it can make our feasibility study. So, yeah, 15,000 meters, 2 rigs turning. These are the first 4 holes to come out of it. It's quite a multi-purpose program. It's not just doing the resource growth and the inferred to M&I conversion. It's also collecting a lot of mine planning information, rock conditions, fault locations, groundwater mapping, looking at more metallurgy material for the feasibility study. So we're getting a lot out of these drill holes. It means we've been a touch slower than I probably would have liked to be, but nonetheless, these holes are coming out showing some lovely grades on what we hope to be in resource conversion.
All right, so out of those 2 rigs, yes, one is focused on the geotechnical aspects to support that feasibility study. The other one is on this resource growth and the conversion of the inferred ounces. In terms of the resource growth, what's possible though? It does seem like this has been pretty well drilled, and again, you already have a lot of M&I ounces. What could be possible in terms of the actual growth component of the resource?
Yeah, we've always thought we could get Ana Paula to sort of 1 to 1.5 million ounces M&I in the shallow part of the deposit, and that's what we're focused on now. We've had success, when we've the nature of that changing the drill rig around and understanding the true orientation of the high grade panel has meant that we've got a lift in grade when we've done conversion in the past. We anticipate, we don't know for sure, that's why we're drilling, but we anticipate that there's a good chance that continues with these holes. So we think we can add ounces and we think we can add them to the feasibility study. So that's all the shallow part of the resource. And then we look to go deeper. Once we get the decline in, or if maybe you bring in some directional drilling, you could bring and test some of the deeper parts. So I think 1 to 1.5 million in the shallow part of the resource. Once we've done that, we can look deeper and the resource is open at depth. But we would love to have the decline down to really drill that efficiently.
So, Charles, I guess a question being with these current results, the ones we just saw a few days ago, how do they compare to what's in the inferred resource grade wise?
Yeah, so they're positive relative to that. There's a nice little hit as well as the 30 meters at 6, which correlates roughly with what we'd seen before and what we predicted. We found another little zone, 4.5 meters at 12 grams, a bit further down. So if the holes around that continue to hit that zone, we think we can add ounces there. Yeah, it's a 15,000 meter drill program, so I wouldn't want to make projections on just the first 4 holes. We're hoping that we can add those. We have looked like we've got outperformance in those 2 holes. I think we need a bit more of a statistically reliable data set before I shout that from the rooftops, though.
Fair enough. But what's important here, I think, is that you are seeing what you expect to see where you're seeing it. But any surprises just from these 4 holes at any part of the hole within that system?
Yeah, so we hit a new zone of 4.5 meters at 12 grams. All the focus is on the sort of 60-meter wide, 5 to 10 gram high grade panel. What we've noticed as we've started to do this drilling, the drilling late last year, the drilling we've started this year, is we do hit all these little satellite hits out and around that. And we think this drill program has the potential to bring some of those into the M&I categories.
All right, so this is all playing into the feasibility study and undoubtedly an updated resource here. What about other news? You and I have talked so much about some of the other projects that you have in terms of restarting production and even getting production going at some other mines. So, what's the news flow look like from here on out?
Yeah, I think starting with Ana Paula, I think we're going to have consistent drill news flow for the rest of this year into early next year. And I think the takeaway for people who haven't gone into the super details is the quality of the grades and widths at Ana Paula. That'll feed into a resource. You'll see the impact of that on the study. And so it'll be nice to be putting out some of the most spectacular gold intercepts you see in the industry consistently over the next few months to really show the margin potential, how much money, the read through to high grade is how much money it can make when it's in good mining widths, which it is here. Outside of Ana Paula, we've got these sort of 3 levels of results that I like to talk about. We have, the proof that the business is profitable in the quarterly production numbers. We're going to file after market on Friday and release pre-market next week in a press release, the Q2 numbers, the calendar Q2 numbers this year. Then we've got what I think of these NAV growth steps, these big steps of showing that the company is fundamentally worth more. That is the technical reports to come for La Colorada, for Serra de Gaia, and the feasibility study for Ana Paula. There are 3 big news releases to come. 2 of those will come in the next couple of months. And then all these drill results. We've seen the first Ana Paula results. You're going to see drilling at La Colorada on the last of the stockpiles we have to drill. And then you'll start to see some of the oxide growth drilling at St. Augustine. So it's kind of cool to have, the base certainty in the business, in our quarterly production numbers and the margin that comes from that and the cash flow that we're generating. And then the spending money on the business and showing that creating value by demonstrating better economics for our projects. And then kind of what I like to think is a bit of sex appeal, a bit of potential to find new resources and to make discoveries with our drilling. It's a cool 3-layered set of news to come.
So, Charles, just a quick update then. Where do you stand cash-wise? I guess it's not as important for you as it is some other exploration companies because you are generating cash flow. You are a producer, but right now, what does the treasury look like?
Yeah, no, it's always important. it becomes more life-threatening when it's low, I agree. So, no, we grew the cash balance to just under $30 million at the end of the last quarter. We'd put that out in a press release. So Q2 was always going to be what we thought was our weakest quarter. And, we'll put out all the financials to support it, but the cash balance grew by a couple of $1 million. So I think that speaks to the health of that period. We also have done a significant amount of exploration in that period. So our operating mines are fundamentally profitable, and we're reinvesting that cash in the company with a long-term view of growing our production profile with very little equity dilution. So cash position, relatively healthy. I don't think there's such a thing as a too healthy cash position. We've got the money that we need to do the corner pushback at San Augustine, which we got all the permissions for and made a decision to go ahead on. We've got the cash to do these big drill programs. We're spending money where we think we can add production and where we think we can grow resources.
All right, Charles. Thank you very much for this update. I'm sure we'll be chatting a lot as we progress through this year and into next year. And it's also been nice to see the stock make recently another leg higher, really taking that leadership role again on the back of this good news and a whole lot of news coming. So for everyone listening, if you have any follow-up questions for Charles, send me an email, fleck@kereport.com. I'll get him to address those. And I'll follow up with Charles as we get even more news out on the drilling and on any of the reports that are coming from all of the projects. Charles, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.